enough of Keanu. Yes, it's true. Whenever we see you in another movie, get to wishing that you were in them all. Our hearts cry out, Keanu, haven't aged a day in 30 years. Now we're looking back on your career. Can't get enough of Keanu.
So can I just make a decree right now that this episode will not be as long as the Dracula one?
No. God, no. Please.
Please let it be an hour less than the Dracula
How
one.
did that happen?
I think it just really got away from us. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just got out of hand.
You know?
That was a
Yeah.
little wild. That was like... it's funny because it didn't feel as long as some slightly shorter episodes have. I was like... I knew that it was going to be above 2 hours,
Could it
but
be
it did
we were
not
having
feel...
too much fun hanging out with
Were
each
you
other?
having
Yeah.
fun?
No,
Because
I
you
was
look like you're about to
dying.
die
You were
at the end.
At one point, you were just laying on the ground, and you were like, "My blood sugar is low.
It was
I haven't
so low.
eaten today." I had to feed
Yeah.
you a cookie.
Yeah, you were like,
on
my
mic.
build hurts.
My beard hurts.
I like that
Sometimes
you
it does.
I like that you said that because I just happened to click over to our iTunes page.
Yeah.
And our latest review,
iTunes
iTunes.
have an
Clicked
iTunes
over to
account.
iTunes, but
Jesus Christ,
but
you
no,
guys.
our latest
know.
review, the subject header is more Homestar Runner references, please.
Hell yeah, we'll do that.
Well, no, that's a-
Marzipan,
That's actually...
the King of Town, Strong Mad.
That's a Zach Galifianakis reference we
Oh my
just
God,
did.
it is.
Yeah.
My build hurts. It's Zach
This is my
Galifianakis.
impression of a 5-year-old with a beard. I don't
Yeah.
want to have this beard anymore.
He's doing
I
unintentionally or not a Homestar
It
Runner
is a
voice.
Homestar
though.
voice because I was just thinking
Yeah,
it was
that's
the
not
thing,
a beard. That's cinnamon.
That's not a
Yeah. What is it,
No,
like 3
it's
in the
cinnamon.
afternoon? And we have a
Dang.
stupid character that we do, which is a little girl who loves
Matt.
Val Kilmer
You and
movies.
Matt.
Yes.
And she
She
also
won't go to bed
By the way-
until she keeps trying to watch Val Kilmer
Wait,
movies.
guys, slow
Yeah.
down. Lauren Michaels, if you're listening, hire these two boys as writers on SNL for
Yeah.
next season because they got this one sketch and it's gold.
Honestly, Lauren, I've seen the stuff that SNL is putting out these days, and I really and sincerely believe that I can write as well as what seems to get put on that TV show.
Ooh,
At least this
wow.
one sketch.
Consistently, bitch.
I actually believe
I'm sorry,
that.
Lauren.
Lauren, you're
Lauren, I'm
old
sorry.
and you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't
Okay?
get it. You don't know what's in the zeitgeist anymore, dude.
You want to pitch the sketch to Lauren?
Yeah, okay. So Lauren, get this.
Gold.
I'll play the main character too.
Oh, wait, so you're also going to be a cast member.
Yeah, I'll be a cast member. I'll write my own sketches.
Triple threat.
And you have to play this part because, unlike Matt, you will shave your facial hair. And you
Yeah,
need
I
to
don't
be
have like a
clean-shaven.
huge hang up about that. So I can play like the clean cut, well shaved babysitter character.
Oh, you're the babysitter.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be the little girl.
I thought you were the baby.
Oh, I'll be the baby too. It doesn't matter. I'll do like
You're
Nutty
gonna do-
Professor the Clumps or Norbit or whatever. I'll do an Eddie Murphy.
I mean,
thing.
Eddie Murphy was a cast member.
Yeah. So there's a babysitter, and the parents, before they went off to their date, told the babysitter, "We can take care of our daughter. She has a strict bedtime at 7
isn't
p.m."
going to translate in the least. I'm already realizing.
Yeah, it's not. But no, you know what though? SNL ran a sketch where literally the whole joke was just it was two kids that get a gift and they hope it's a calculator. And they say
And
the word
they're
calculator
Jewish,
in like a
basically.
Jewish accent. And that is a sketch that made it to live primetime television. So this is why I'm saying that the sketches are bad. And this
like
Val
that
Kilmer,
one.
it's funny for all of 1 minute. The problem with SNL is that because they build full sets for all these sketches, they need to like at least
Well, Jake,
linger
you have
for
this-
6 or
you
7
have this-
minutes.
This scorching hot take that I fundamentally disagree with: that SNL should not be live,
Yeah.
and
It's
the
a
sketches
worse
should
show
all be
for it.
pre-taped. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's
You know
that's
where
correct.
you know when I laugh the most is when the Lonely Island or whoever is there that version of what SNL has now.
Well, yes, those are
That's
very
the best
good.
one. They're always the best ones, though.
No,
Yeah.
they're not.
I don't even watch
Pat,
that
tell
much.
me a SNL sketch that happened recently that you thought was like the bee's knees.
I don't know if I've watched any of this season.
Exactly, because nobody cares
Exactly.
about the show anymore because it's
But-
not good.
Okay, this is an old one, but like for instance, the potato chip sketch. Mm-hmm. You know the one. The one with Will Forte and Jason Sudeikis, where Jason Sudeikis is a guy who talks like Colonel Sanders, and he's applying for a job at NASA, And Will Forte has this bowl of potato chips on his desk and tells him, he leaves the room and he's like, don't you eat any of these potato chips?
I mean, that kind of makes me laugh already.
It's that is I mean this
I do like Will Forte.
This sketch is like a decade old.
Yeah.
But
so
it is a true piece of inspired lunacy that would not be nearly as effective if it were not live. I'm not going to spoil the end of it, but it is so bonkers, and the audience loses their minds.
Fair enough. They have about one good sketch, I would say, like every quarter.
Speaking of inspired lunacy.
Yeah, the Val Kilmer baby sketch.
Wait, finish pitching your sketch. All you did was say there's
My
a babysitter.
sketch is the inspired lunacy, bitch. Okay, I gotta stop saying that word.
First of all,
it's not cool.
let's not have this become a trademark.
No, insult.
Who gets a cut of the money issue? Because I babysat that little girl.
That's true. We both
whose
babysat
voice
her.
I'm making fun of. Who she shall remain anonymous.
So what you're saying is
That's
you
true,
didn't
that's
even
true.
really make this up. You're just
Those were the
you're just
Val Kilmer DVDs I saw in the house.
Yeah.
Can you explain the sketch?
I made it up.
All right,
Our
Matt, you
listeners,
go.
like I know it, but our listeners don't know what you're talking about.
Right. There's this little girl we used to babysit. And
No, explain the sketch.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
just tell a story.
We're gonna. Pat. There is a landscape around the sketch.
Imagine you're pitching this in the room. The audience won't know.
All right,
that-
Lauren is
about
sitting-
your own
Lauren,
backstory.
Make me laugh.
Yeah, Lauren's sitting right in front of you. What is the sketch? The Val Kilmer baby sketch. Babysitter, taking care of little girl. Little girl has a strict bedtime. Parents say, whatever you do, the one thing is do not let her come downstairs and stay up later than her bedtime. So babysitter's watching movies or whatever, just
Don't they also
chilling.
say, and don't let her watch Val Kilmer?
Yeah, don't let her watch.
I
Val
thought that was
Kilmer.
the thing. It's like a gremlin. They're like,
Yeah.
She needs to go to bed. Do not let her stay up past her bedtime, and definitely don't let her watch any Val Kilmer movies.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the DVD
Yeah.
case, and it's his entire filmography.
Yeah. From Kiss Kiss Bang Bang all the way back to Top Secret.
Yeah.
You have Val
Like
Kilmer's
weird
full
signs and shit. Yeah.
full filmography. And so cut to later, the kids are all asleep or whatever, and the babysitter is just watching some late night TV waiting for the parents to return home so they can get paid. And then the living room is sort of angled so you can sort of see like the top stairs to going to the upstairs area.
Like any
And-
sitcom, basically.
And the babysitter can see just
2
through like
feet.
one sliver between like the ceiling of the den and the upstairs area, 2 feet just standing.
Planted
Poised
defiantly.
at the top stair, and he's and I forget what we would call the little girl in the sketch.
Yeah,
but
I almost said.
I don't want to say the person's real name.
Her IRL name.
So they're just like, "Is that you?" And then the feet would kind of like tense for a second, and
This is
then
taking so long.
would suddenly walk down the stairs, and then it's the little girl that he said couldn't be there, and he's like, "No, I said you have to go up there." And then it would involve the little girl basically trying to like sweet talk the babysitter. That would be the rest of the sketch about why it would behoove him to watch a Val Kilmer movie with her, and that's the whole sketch.
You didn't even do the voice.
You gotta do the voice.
She talks in a Homestar Runner voice.
Jake, this is such a bad pitch. If I were Lorne Michaels, I would fire you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Me, Patrick Willems, have heard you guys do this so many times, and I know that it's actually funny, and none of that humor was communicated by what you just said.
To be honest, I kind of lost steam like a quarter of the way through that pitch.
Okay, so the little girl creeps downstairs,
Yeah.
and what does she say?
It looks like we got a nice little collection of Val Kilmer movies over here, and let me just peruse it. It's like, you have to go to bed. Oh, let me just peruse for a second and see what kinds of titles we have to select from. Oh, what is this? Is this a copy of The Saint? Oh, well, before you say another word, maybe perhaps we should just pop in and see like scene 13 on the DVD track listing here. Why don't we? And that kind of stuff. So I think you have a fair enough idea.
I think you're
what
all
the sketch
laughing
is.
at home at this point.
I think you're doubled over.
Yeah, and of course, who
perhaps
is the little
you've
girl's favorite
peed
actor?
Your pants? Val Kilmer. Yeah, but it is. We're talking a Homestar Runner. It's a Homestar Runner voice. Is really all we're trying to say.
Yeah.
we
We might-
find the Homestar Runner voice so funny.
It is truly so.
And
Which
we
one
love
of those
iTunes
brothers-
reviewers that say that they appreciate the Homestar Runner references because that website left a very huge impact on all three of us.
It's already like very like distinctly dating me You know what I mean? Like,
you can guess our
it's
ages
from such a like specific
as a result of loving this
span
website
of like internet content for early on that like
there's really only like a 5-year chunk of time.
Only 90s kids understand.
yeah, it is kind of that, but like it's like it's from the aughts and
But you have to have grown up in the 90s. So like we are 90s kids.
I guess
And we saw it at the right time.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw it when I was in middle
but I'm
school.
I was born in the 80s, so doesn't that make me an 80s kid?
No, because you're too late in the 80s. You have no memory of the 80s.
Oh, man, God damn
It's
it.
okay.
Listen, this
You
is
have-
a movie review of Freaked, and I'm being gross like the freaks in this
Yeah.
film. This episode is all about being gross and,
And
like
nasty.
in the
Ooh.
and speaking of the
And
90s.
soiling
Wow, it's
ourselves
so
by the end of the
Ooh,
episode.
What's that? That's the button to turn off massive
No, don't do
microphone.
it.
Don't do it. Don't
Look,
do it. You'll
he's just
lose
gonna
the
wait.
magic.
He's just gonna wait until you turn it back on, and then he's gonna fart right in
Oh,
the
I
mic.
can't turn it off while we're recording.
Good to
You can
know.
turn it down though.
Yeah.
Huh.
And have you done that?
All right. And welcome to Can't Get Enough of Keanu. We are we're down
so
one
this-
host.
Matt's back.
This is who boy, I love this. This is what I live for when it comes to reviewing the
Wait,
obscure.
shut up.
Ah.
Shut up.
Yes,
My
sir.
turn to talk now. Welcome to Can't Get Enough of Keanu, the internet's
right.
premier Keanu Reeves podcast, in which we explore the filmography of that great, ageless, enigmatic Canadian actor movie by movie. I'm Patrick Willems.
I'm Jake Torpey. Hi.
And I'm Matt Torpey.
And today we are talking about a film that is
It is a film.
co-directed by Tom Stern and a returning subject of the podcast, Alex Winter,
You'll recall.
Bill S. Preston Esquire himself. It is a film called Freaked.
Yeah.
A 1993 American comedy. I gotta say, I think this is a movie. If ever a movie should have an exclamation point in the title, it's this.
Oh, totally.
I actually just read it as such, even though it never had one.
Right, especially
The entire time I was just like jebbing it, you know, I was like, there's an exclamation point. There just is
yeah.
one.
Wait, jebbing? Is that a new?
I'm trying to trying to slide it on.
No, that's a
in.
great new
A
term.
bit of Jeb Bush reference.
Yeah.
Here and there.
It should have Jeb. First of all, Jeb should have been an Intero bang. That would have been really funny.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Jeb?
that's old news. We're in it's almost 2020, baby.
Yeah, we should be incredulous about Jeb for
Hey,
sure.
I once encountered. I'll forever be grateful for because of a wacky turn of events. I was at the taping of the very first episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Jeb
first one?
the first one.
Shit.
Not through anything special. My friend Brian just got tickets, and because they're free, he just like saw the tweet at the right time that was like tickets available.
Got it in that half of millisecond that
Yeah,
you can
I was
click
like,
and
Patrick,
get those
want to go to
tickets,
the
yeah.
first Colbert episode?
So
That's crazy.
You got to see Jeb in the flesh.
Yeah, the guests were George Clooney and Jeb Bush.
Is Jeb as good looking in real life as he seems to be when he was on the campaign trail, the Republican campaign trail?
I mean, he is that kind of like bland, just vaguely handsome kind of ness that you expect.
There's something for everybody, you mean?
And every
Yeah.
man.
He's so bland and vague as to be palatable by all folks. of
Okay,
different,
he's the kind of
like,
blandly
persuasions
human
and
tofu.
tastes.
He's the kind
Yes.
of blandly handsome that used to like win you elections.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you look like that. You look like the guy who was probably, captain of the debate team and like the quarterback and wore a lot of like sweater vests.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and
you're
was in the
guy.
Skull and Bones Society at Yale,
Right,
and
he was
hazed
jacking off
someone
onto
until their
some-
testicles exploded,
Right.
like normal people.
Jacking off on the glass table. Wasn't that something that like genuinely happened?
Slitting the throat of a goat and then sitting on your classmate's face.
Yeah.
You guys ever see the
and
movie
making him
The
butt chug until he passes out and
You guys ever
has
see
to
the
go to the
movie The
hospital.
Skulls?
Good old hazing. No.
Yes, but like
Is that about the Skull
many
and
moons
Bones
ago?
Society?
Sort of. It's like it's
It's got that kid from that one
Joshua Jackson.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Pacey from Dawson's
Pacey,
Creek.
yeah.
Pacey.
Yeah. It
I hate that name. Pacey. Hateable character, but very hateable name. Good job, whoever named him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
it's true. It's an
literally in the
annoying name.
pilot of Dawson's Creek, Pacey is having an affair with his teacher. And usually, as someone who's seen my fair share of teen
Relatable.
dramas, that's like generally like a season 2 storyline, not a
Relatable.
pilot episode
A
storyline.
teacher having an affair with their student.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what's different about Dawson's Creek. It really goes there. It doesn't really pull its punches.
But like Gossip Girl took until season 2 to do that story. And Gossip Girl's whole thing was like it goes further than other teen dramas.
Yeah,
It's
well, guess
like,
what? Guess it's really not it's not living up to its own hype. And Dawson's Creek, if you really want to get the good stuff.
Yeah, you go straight
If you really
to the
want to get
Dawson.
some over-articulate teens played by 38-year-olds, you
I don't
gotta
wanna
check
wait
it out.
Isn't
for our
that
lives to be over.
isn't that like Beverly Hills 90210?
That's the joke about
That's
that.
the OG.
The thing-
Because that's Matt Perry, right?
Luke Perry.
Fuck!
R.I.P. Luke Perry.
Yeah.
Friends. Just a
Yeah.
schizophrenic breakdown I'm having. Just yelling TV shows.
So the movie The Skulls was a 2000 American thriller
Right.
that was sort of like loosely inspired by the Skull and Bones
Right.
Society and like conspiracies about
The
it.
Princeton lunch clubs and things like this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great premise for a movie. This guy goes to like Yale or like some Ivy League school, especially because he's like a working class guy, and then joins the secret society. But then it turns out it's super dark and fucked up, and they do evil stuff.
Nice.
And I remember it was a movie that I was always curious about. And then I think when I was in college, it was just like playing on, I don't know, like FX at midnight. I just sat up in bed and watched it, and I was like, oh, this is bad. It's like, it does not live up to its premise. It's
Sorry, did you
it's
say
a
what
letdown.
year it came out?
2000.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a film by Rob Cohen.
Okay.
film that
Same
he
guy
was-
that made A Tale of Two Kitties? One of the Coen brothers did Garfield, A Tale of Two
No,
Kitties.
Right.
Jake.
God damn it, Jake. Rob Cohen, after this movie, directed The Fast and the Furious, following that, Triple X.
Bill
Very
Murray
good.
thought that a different Cohen was one of the
guy
Coen brothers.
named...
Sorry,
a
you're
guy
right, you're right.
named...
This is apocryphal, maybe.
I believe Joel Cohen co-wrote Garfield.
Oh.
It's
I
not
knew
like
one of
Charlie
the Coen
Kaufman
brothers
doing like
did Garfield.
Yes, a guy named Joel Cohen, who is
Yeah.
clearly not... okay, the Coen brothers, their name is spelled C-O-E-N. This is Joel Cohen, C-O-H-E-N.
Oh, Cohen.
Cohen.
Yeah, Cohen.
Why didn't you say that earlier? Cohen.
Because I thought it was pretty clear
I'm
that
just
Rob
being an
Cohen,
idiot.
director of The Fast and the Furious, did not direct the Garfield movie.
That actually isn't clear to me.
Yeah, it's not clear to me either.
Why are you guys well versed in the filmography of Rob Cohen?
Well, this is the thing. We don't know that
He made
fact,
Stealth.
and that's why.
he made the Jamie Foxx starrer Stealth.
What the hell are you talking
the fuck
about?
are you-
Stealth?
You know the movie Stealth
Nobody-
about the sentient stealth fighter jet?
No, nobody knows what that movie
And I mean,
It
is.
was Jamie Foxx's first movie
You could
after
be
winning an
making that
Oscar.
up.
Is that- I
After
mean-
he did Ray?
Yeah, he won an Oscar and did Stealth.
He basically did fucking Knight Rider with a plane.
You hear that hummingbird
Well, okay,
out
the
the
thing
window.
about it
Is
about
he the
Stealth-
voice of a plane? Is he even in the movie?
He
He's
shot
just
it.
like,
He shot it before he won the Oscar.
Oh,
His
do you think he
actual
regrets it?
first post-Oscar movie was Jarhead, but Stealth was the one
That
released
movie's sick.
After that.
I never
The
saw
point we were
Jarhead.
ranking is that the problem
Stealth!
was that Jeb, Jeb, he was
Bush.
the old model, and it turned out that Trump was the new hotness.
God
we needed
damn it.
something fresh and vital, so that's
Yeah.
what happened.
And that's why the world is bad now.
Yep.
Well, hey, listen, you know what?
This is where Matt mounts a defense of Donald Trump and gets our podcast canceled forever.
Listen, I'm hashtag problematic, but
It's
I'm not going to
darkest
bring it
before
here.
dawn.
It's
Let's just say that. Let's just say that.
You're problematic off mic.
off of mic. No, actually, all I was going to do was steer it back to Freaked.
Wait, Matt, that's my job. The tables have turned. The roles have switched.
That's right.
You feel uncomfortable.
I'm sitting here screaming about
Stealth.
Stealth.
and
To have a little, have fun, play around. I'll be the guy. I'll be
Yeah,
the,
let's
the
switch
annoying
personalities.
Oh my God! The problem is I don't have control of his levels. Also, you gotta up that game, man.
I
You guys,
know.
you gotta bring
I
some
didn't
more
really have one
puissance
coming.
to it.
I forced it.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's cool, actually.
If
Can
you
you
guys
just
switch
can you
with
just
each
burp
other-
on command?
Nice.
I mean, that's like the most I can do a command.
yeah, you
you
gotta
can't
suck
do, like,
in a
the
little bit of
alphabet
air.
or
No, I
anything?
can't. I'm also going to cut that out. That was gross.
No, it's fine. Don't worry
I
about
don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like
Yeah.
it.
All
That's
right.
not me. That's not me. Matt, I have a brand to
Do you want to
consider.
go back to your role, and I'll go back into the dirt?
No, I don't. No.
You little pig.
I'll roll around in
Roll
the
around
dirt.
your sty.
People
Yeah.
don't realize the
Well, like
sacrifice
the
I
film
take.
Freaked.
Oh my
Like
God!
the
All right,
film.
So
let's.
this film is
This film is the bomb.
well, Pat. Do you have a dissenting opinion? I loved it.
No, okay. I'm not going to say I loved it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's good. And
my eyes are always bugged out the whole time. It did make me very happy.
Yeah, it's also, I mean,
it's the most of its era type of thing too.
Freak is also that rare, wonderful kind of movie that is 80 minutes long.
It's a beautiful, tight, freaky little movie.
Oh my, ew. Don't cut my burp out, cut that out.
Yeah, that's my review. If you could put my blurb on the back of the
is this,
VHS case.
You guys were hinting at like earlier, maybe off mic, like the weird process where this was made. But is this an Alex Winter joint? Like
this is a very
purely out of his demented little head.
It's Alex Winter's like last starring movie.
Yeah,
for a long time.
I wouldn't say it's purely out of his head, but he was what seems like part of a coterie of like just like a comedic writing team. The
thing is, like, Alex Winter was the star of and co-creator of a short-lived MTV sketch comedy group called sketch comedy show called The Idiot Box,
right?
That ran from 1990 to 1991.
Yes,
there were only 6 episodes, and it was co-created. It was Alex Winter, Tom Stern, and Tim Burns.
Right.
Okay.
And they went on to all co-write Freaked, and Stern and Alex Winter directed it together. So this was an offshoot of that, and so they already had this like aggressive, weird, like surreal comedy show that apparently was like heavily inspired by Mad Magazine and Monty Python.
It's very obvious.
Just like
I mean Monty Python, but
like this totally absurdist show.
Yeah.
And so this movie, it's like this was born from that same partnership. It was like an offshoot of that show they'd already done.
Well, okay, because there's so many things that immediately spring to mind. Like we were talking about. Well, I mean, obviously, Bill and Ted, it feels like a raunchy heightening even, somehow, of, like, the Bill and Ted shit, where, like, it's kind of like anything goes and it's a cartoon. Then you were mentioning Better Off Dead, which we had brought up about the Bill and Ted movies.
Yeah, well, the reason I thought of Better Off Dead, like, initially, because that is, again, if you haven't seen it, it is a one of the truly great, I think, 80s comedies, especially one that doesn't get the credit it deserves.
One of Cusack's best.
Oh, yeah, and sadly, he, like, disowned the movie and hated it.
Really? Cusack doesn't like that movie?
Yeah.
What is his thought on it?
Cusack sleeps in a, like, barometric chamber.
Is he like Wahlberg in Boogie Nights? Is he like, I'm a Christian now and this is ridiculous? That I was a porn star?
No,
a singing hamburger? That sounds like the devil's work.
He disowned it, like, right as it was made, because what happened was,
and he was like a child at that point.
I know. So what happened was, so Better Off Dead was written and directed by Savage Steve Holland, who I think was an animator and then made that movie, which is why there's like animated segments in Better Off Dead. And immediately after Better Off Dead, I think because the studio liked the way it was looking, the whole team went and made the follow-up. It's not like a direct sequel, but just like the whole team then made another movie called One Crazy Summer. Also starring John Cusack. So Cusack was already signed on to One Crazy Summer before Better Off Dead had even been released. And then Cusack saw Better Off Dead and was like, this isn't what I had signed on for. This is this weird cartoon thing. I want to be a more serious actor. I don't like this. And so he still made One Crazy Summer, but apparently just like hated the director through the whole thing. And then immediately after that does Say Anything. And that like really launches his career.
The very deadly serious Say Anything.
Right. But I mean, it's Say Anything, like, while still funny, is not like the cartoon that Better Off Dead is. But the reason that I thought of Better Off Dead with this movie was as soon as the little troll, as they call him, you know the kid I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's
the Alfred E. Newman kid.
Alex Winter, his character is Ricky Coogan. And his character in this movie has like a #1 fan, like this little fanboy that follows him around, who just looks like Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine.
But as in, this character first appears when Ricky Coogan is on a plane, and this kid has hid in the overhead compartment so that he can like try to ask him for an autograph. But as soon as this kid appears, it reminds me of the paper boy in Better Off Dead. The kid who chases John Cusack down a ski mountain on a bicycle screaming, I want my $2. And I was like, okay, this feels very much in line with that, except with this more aggressive, like, science fiction element with, like, as we'll get into, crazy prosthetics.
So I was thinking, like, I mean, this also reminded me of the Max Headroom stuff, which I think weren't some of the designers from that show part of Bill and Ted? Did I misremember that?
Oh God, that's a good question. I do remember there was some weird connective
I think like
thread.
a production designer.
Yeah.
On Bogus Journey.
My point being just that, like, I don't know how to, like, I just feel like the visual elements in this and the, like, inclusion of these, like, weird prosthetics and, like, insane angles and hyper cartoonish, semi-satirical take on, like, corporations and celebrity and, like, what people want from TV. Like, a lot of, like, music videos looked like this, you know, like
and also some of the plot stuff, especially with like the evil corporations and stuff like that.
Yeah,
kind of like dipped into some territory that years later Zoolander would do.
Yes,
or
that kind of thing.
What was that Aussie movie we were watching? The Ausploitation movie.
Body Melt.
Body Melt.
Body Melt.
No, this reminded me a lot of Body Melt. Like this is honestly like a kind of, it's getting into similar territory, but it's like a more family friendly version of like Body Melt and Street Trash.
And like The Stuff.
The stuff
is a good,
Exactly.
I'd say that's a good example.
Actually, I think one of the creature designers was part of the one of the guys that made the creature designs for Society.
Sure, that sounds right. I mean, all of those prosthetics heavy effects of the 80s, despite the fact that sometimes they don't always age as well as you'd hope they would, still there's just a charm about the tangibility of them that you can see.
Yeah.
And so when you see these kinds of elaborate prosthetics and special effects and these grotesque like outfits that they have to like rubberize around these actors,
I mean, they still read as grosser and more
and realistic.
Yeah,
especially
than
when you just add a little bit of like moisture to them.
the wetness.
You just
That's
add some viscous moisture.
Well, that's what like Society did so well, which
Yeah.
is why like, you know, Society is this like 80s movie about this rich aristocracy that ends up being this sort of unified alien life form that gets together and just all like merges into a big disgusting, you know, sort of morphological mess.
Yeah, just a
and
big
everyone's
blob.
wet and their heads are their butts and it's
fantastic.
It's so good.
The movie is very, very slow, but the last 20 minutes are just
The payoff.
so worth it to
That-
watch the movie
yeah.
Society.
But I like in the opening credits of Freaked.
Yeah.
And we should say the opening credits are insane.
Also good, just claymation and like stop motion
it's
stuff.
like imagine if Peter Gabriel's music video for Sledgehammer took crack cocaine. It's the best. If Nick Park, the creator of Wallace and Gromit, was addicted to meth,
Yeah.
he would make the opening credits like this for this movie. Who is the effects supervisor?
Fucking, I'm also just thinking of like, remember Inside Out Boy?
Yeah, it was a little bit like Inside Out Boy from Nickelodeon.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I found it. So the main title designer
This really is only 90s kids will know.
was the main title designer was this guy named Tom Arndt.
Okay.
And but who weird. I'm trying to find out more about him because the whole opening title sequence it's this whole like mixture of like collages and paintings. The whole thing is so frenetic,
Very seizure
and it's set to
inducing.
like this like really fast, intense rock song.
Freaked, a Henry Rollins song.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Henry Rollins, and then the Butthole Surfers also.
Well, that's
Yeah.
okay. That's the thing. I want to talk about the weird development of this movie.
I'd like to talk about the Butthole Surfers for a moment, if you will.
Yeah,
this
no.
did used to be a Butthole Surfers vehicle, right? Alex
Yes.
Winter and his co-writers
Orig-
wanted to make a movie that basically was meant to be a big feature of Butthole
I mean,
Surfer
it has
music.
It has their
Yeah.
like aesthetic kind of look to it. Like,
Yeah.
you could see where if they had brought whatever this was, this sort of imagination, sort of come to life thing, like it would lend itself really well to a lot of the weird kind of like early 90s psych revival shit, like Mercury Rev, or like even like I don't know, Beck or whatever.
Beck,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it would kind of work for all that shit.
But so originally,
Alice, or you know, what
What are you
is
going
it
to say,
again?
Alice in Chains?
No, not Alice in Chains. Fuck,
Alice Cooper.
Jane's Addiction.
Oh, Jane's Addiction.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
But yeah, originally this was meant to be a low budget horror film featuring the Butthole Surfers. And
The Butthole Surfers.
I like that. I mean,
yeah.
I like that.
Also, I realized Do our younger listeners know who the Butthole Surfers are?
They'll
I
just
barely
you have
know who
the
the
everyone
Butthole
has the
Surfers
internet.
are.
Just look
Yeah.
it up.
Just Google
See,
this
the
shit.
thing is, like, pretty much my entire exposure to the Butthole Surfers was just being a kid and listening to, of course, the radio station that we listened to in our hometown, WEQX 102.7, The Real Alternative. And when I was like in second grade, I think,
Real
I
Alternative.
would listen to that station. My family would in the car, and that was when the song Pepper was like blowing up. Which is their most famous song. It's a song I believe that is featured in the first Hangover movie.
I don't remember.
Or at least it was in the trailer.
But I like that Todd Phillips keeps coming up.
Good old Todd Phillips.
In my life.
Yeah. But I mean, like, Pepper still rules. That is a great song.
No, the Butthole Surfers are good. I mean, even their name alone
also, what a name. The
is
fact that
now
they
not
succeeded
okay.
with that name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I read a quote from Alex Winter?
Please.
He was part of like a interview with IndieWire back in 2012. But he talks about the genesis of the movie. And Mr. Winter says, and I quote,
Mr. Winter.
Me and Tom Stern, his writing partner, wrote this with Gibby Haynes from the Butthole Surfers. We had done a bunch of stuff with the buttholes. I guess that's what he calls them shorthand, which is so funny.
Yeah.
We'd done a bunch of stuff with the buttholes. We'd done videos with them. They were really good friends of ours, and we wanted to make a Butthole Surfers movie. A butthole movie, if you will. And we wanted to be the first to step into the butthole movie genre.
God damn, it's as appealing to my childlike sense of wonder.
Burgeoning at the time. And we were working with Sam Raimi on a couple different projects, and we were all really young.
Oh, I wish those had happened.
We were NYU film guys who came out to LA and who were making films, though I, Alex Winter, was acting, which is what I was known for. Even while I was acting, I was shooting all this time, different video projects. So we were making commercials, and we had our own show on MTV, which was called The Idiot Box, which we can talk a little bit more about. We were doing all this pretty underground stuff, but we really wanted to make a movie, and Sam Raimi was helping us make this movie because he was the only guy who had pull at the time to make something that was pretty crazy. So he just came in there and said that we can get this made, but none of our projects, even with Sam Raimi's with Sam Raimi's help, got made.
Because still back then, Sam Raimi had just made like Darkman and Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
it's not like
exactly.
he made Spider-Man yet.
No, this is So what is the latest? Darkman must have been the latest movie Sam Raimi had made at the
I
time.
think Darkman was 1990. And I think Army of Darkness was like 91 or 2.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, you could probably speak better to what Sam Raimi's career was like and whether or not he had any sort of Hollywood pull at the time with Army of Darkness. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was still a cult guy.
Right.
He'd stepped into some studio filmmaking, but it was still lower budget. He was still a guy who made like weird cult movies, and it's not like in the 2000s, especially because Sam Raimi had his production company Ghost House Pictures, where he would produce a lot of horror movies, things like The Grudge or this year Crawl, and because at that point he had made Spider-Man movies and was like, great, I can just get stuff made. I can my name is big enough that I can attach it to these smaller projects and get people's movies made.
That's nice.
But Sam Raimi, like 15 years before that, was not quite at that level.
Yeah.
What do you think that was in the air or like culturally was like going on where like that this kind of film was still able to get made and was kind of getting made in a bunch of film mediums like somewhat regularly?
I have my guess.
Well, because like, okay, I would like to hear it because like, I think the last time, and I've said this before, I think in reference again to Bill and Ted is like maybe something else was like the only thing I've seen of late that kind of approaches this vibe, for the lack of a better word to use an overused term, like would be Sorry to Bother You. Like as far as like an American movie that's doing this kind of like
gonzo
hyper stylized, hyper over the top, like oversaturated, just like stylish, but still kind of satirical take on like something. You know what I mean?
Something
think
American.
Where just like bonkers shit can happen at any moment also.
I think an important part of that, especially with the time this was made, and considering the background of the guys who made it, was MTV.
Yeah.
Because
MTV's huge.
MTV is like basically at its peak as like a cultural force.
Yeah.
And MTV's whole brand at this point is where it's like cool, weird, edgy stuff. Countercultural stuff, but reaching a giant mainstream audience that is aimed at like teenagers and college students.
Yeah.
And so that's how you've got like the Idiot Box. Apparently it like went over budget because, as you can imagine, looking like at Freaked, it had like lots of like crazy special effects and stuff like that.
Right.
They were very ambitious with it, but it was that kind of sensibility, and it was the same period of time where they had like liquid television with Eon Flux and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
liquid television.
and they had all
It's a
the
good ass. It was great.
they were putting out all these things that weren't specifically about music, but they were but they just like the channel had this reputation for being like the place to find cool, edgy stuff like this.
It's kind of like what I think Adult Swim essentially took the flag of MTV eventually.
Everyone
became sort of, everybody has their version of whatever that, like
everyone's like carried the flag of like, fuck you, like in whatever form that takes. Back then, I feel like in the late 80s, early 90s, it was
MTV.
like, it was like you could just make a show called like Idiot Box, where it's like, we all know that TV is for morons and it dumbs you down and destroys brain cells.
Right.
And so we're still going to do a show and you're watching it through the medium we're making fun of.
It was just a sort of like we're aware kind of thing, which still happens like almost too often as like a tactic to try and disarm you. But
also it seemed like back then, again, I say this as someone who was too young to be aware of it as it was happening, that MTV was finding like, interesting artists and like weird filmmakers and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were doing some good stuff.
And giving them the resources to do this kind of thing because they'd realize like, oh, wait, no other channel is really doing this and this is resonating with this audience. Yeah. And so I think, again, I'm not giving MTV like full credit for like all the stuff like this, but I think that's sort of representative of this like this movement and this wave in popular culture of like sort of bringing stuff like this to a more mainstream audience and people and just like audiences actually having an appetite for it.
Right. Well, and like most things of this nature, MTV does deserve credit for commencing something and making it making the countercultural and the like underground mainstream. And obviously that has time and time again always ended up becoming just diluted and banal or tragically just lame.
You live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what happened on
TV. You can tell the correctness of a cliche through how hard it makes your eyes roll.
Yeah.
And so that's the legacy of MTV.
But MTV at the time, I think especially, would have gelled with the tonality of the Bill and Ted movies, which is why I think Alex Winter and his writing crew were such a good fit at the time.
How
and
old
why
was
they
Alex Winter in this?
I mean, it's not even that. It's not even a full year after Bill and Ted.
He was born in 1965, so he was like 25.
God damn, dude.
Yeah, and
the success
really,
of Bill
like,
and Ted.
I was looking at this. It was after Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Then he was able to get this MTV show with his friends. It's basically like they had just been friends, Tom Stern and Tim Burns, and then it's like, great, Alex is a movie star now. Cool.
Yeah.
We can use his success to now like make our passion project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it turned into that show, which got canceled because it like went over budget.
Did it get canceled?
It says here that it was canceled after 6 episodes because of budgetary. Apparently the channel's MTV's budgetary problems, probably because they kept financing weird stuff like this.
Yeah, I hate when channels get punished for making cool creative decisions.
I know,
so it still bums
but it
me
prevented
out.
them from filming additional seasons. But that show led directly to Freaked, which seemed to go through a lot of different versions.
Okay, so I was reading this IndieWire review again with Alex Winter. And he described a little bit about the way things went as far as the pitch meetings for Freaked. So he had a little bit of clout. I think despite the fact that Idiot Box went a little over budget and wasn't a tenable like long-term show for MTV, it was still somewhat like talked about and had enough of a cult following to still have some buzz around his name. Him and his writing partner were going to do a pitch meeting for this movie. I think at Fox. Fox ended up being
Fox.
And they apparently wrote this movie in the span of like from 6 p.m. they had a pitch meeting the day after they wrote this movie, is what Winter was telling.
Well, how long did it take them to write it?
Was telling IndieWire. It took him from, and he says, I think like from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. the night before going into Fox's office, and they wrote
It feels like that.
They wrote the whole movie Freaked, and then at like 4 a.m. after like bottoming out and physically crashing, we're like, what is this movie? We cannot pitch this to Fox. This is so dumb that
It's
nobody
like doing an all-nighter for an essay.
This
and
is
just being
seriously embarrassing. We're gonna come in and be in like the laughing stock of the meeting
The sort of
room.
thing
and
where like you stay up all night writing something with your friend, and you're like, oh my god, this is awesome, we're so excited, and you look at it in the morning and it's like, oh no, what have we done?
Well,
Have you
here's the
ever
crazy
watched-
thing.
Have you ever watched that scene from Human Traffic?
From Human Traffic? What's that?
That British movie about like 90s ecstasy culture in Britain? And
Wait,
like,
wait. Oh, so wait, sorry. I was thinking of a different movie. No, I haven't seen Human Traffic.
just like it just reminds me, because we've all been there. Come on, guys. And like
Yeah.
where like he's just talking about how like they were talking about Star Wars in the kitchen and they're just on drugs, and he's just like, yeah, and like so Yoda's all about cultivating the inner force, and he's busy conquering the self. Meanwhile, Darth Vader and the Emperor are trying to conquer outer space. And like they're all like, yeah, and
That
they're
sounds
just
fun.
like having all of these like pseudo epiphanies about dumb bullshit about
Yeah, yeah.
Star Wars. And then like it cuts to like the sun rising, and they're like, and fucking Chewbacca is he's like a big bear. And they're just like so depressed as like their serotonin is bottomed out.
So like this is what happened with Alex Winter and Stern, I think was the guy that was writing with him. So this is why I love this story though. Come 4 a.m. the next day, like technically the day of the pitch meeting that they're supposed to do, they realize that what they want to pitch for Freaked is just absolutely insane. And so he says, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., they write another movie. And the movie is called IHOP.
I'm liking these decisions.
And this is him describing the movie too. He goes, he wrote a whole other movie about an IHOP. It was called IHOP, and it was about this family driving across country, and they stop at an IHOP, and they all seem really nice in the Midwest. But the people working at the IHOP are really these Lovecraftian creatures that live above this subterranean universe. And
I love it.
It was a comedy. And so comes 6 a.m. and they go, fuck it, we're pitching IHOP. So they're driving on their way there. And then this is the great part cap to the story. While they're in the car ride, they're going, what are we doing? Why are we pitching IHOP? And then they pitch Freaked again because they were like, that's the better idea. Why are we pitching IHOP?
So what you're actually saying is that there's an amazing sounding movie called IHOP
that's never been made.
That's sitting and written.
Yeah.
Can't please, folks.
I'm hoping that Bill and Ted 3 kind of gives Alex Winter a resurgence in that he can maybe accomplish some sort of project he's working on. Maybe Keanu can help him out and be Dog Boy again in some sort of thing.
Yeah. By the way, we'll get to
Keanu is a dog in this, by the way.
Yeah, he's
but he's uncredited.
Yes, and I'm very curious about that.
But also, Alex Winter sounds. He's always been interesting to me, but he sounds, just based on this interview, awesome. Alex, come on the show.
Seriously.
We're fans of your work.
Winter seems rad. Freaked was the key.
Yeah.
To
Hashtag
unlock-
winter is coming. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Right.
But he's
I mean,
not, because he's not going to come on.
You guys
the
like
podcast.
Garm of Thorns?
But the person they pitched it to at Fox was a producer called Joe Roth.
Joe Roth, who was, I believe, fired from as a chairman of Fox.
It's basically Bill and Ted all over again.
Yeah, except the thing is, Joe Roth then left Fox. Part of the problem was he loved the movie, and he was right.
Yeah.
And then got fired before it came out, and his replacements were like, "We hate this. We're just not going to release it."
Yeah.
But Joe Roth was fine because he went over and was the chairman of Disney for the next 7 years.
Right.
But
He's chill.
good for him.
He's straight.
but
he's cool.
But Disney,
I would say Alex Winter's career is so weird after this, because then he basically stops acting.
Yeah.
And he kind of goes off the map for years, and then he starts directing the most random shit.
Yeah, he did Smosh the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, he makes...
Good God.
He makes
I know.
that's the thing. He makes some documentaries.
Yeah.
He directs two, for, I believe, Cartoon Network, 2 live-action movies based on the cartoon Ben 10.
That's kind of sick.
Yeah, he makes Smosh the movie, and then he makes it like...
He does like a deep web documentary.
Yeah.
Right? Is that like the dark web or something? What is it?
This is where Matt says dark meat.
No.
Dark web.
No. Come on, you guys. I'm not that predictable. I definitely wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking about Ben 10.
Yeah, Ben
and all the
10's
different 10 aliens he can turn into.
Oh,
Is that what Ben 10's about?
Yeah, man.
All right. Didn't know.
Jake, get it together.
You don't know your fucking head from your ass, do you, boy?
No.
But yeah, he's directed a bunch of documentaries, like one about Bitcoin, one about like the dark web.
And basically, Alex Winter went full digital. He just like stopped caring about, physical.
Yeah, no,
medium.
he made his 2012 documentary Downloaded about internet file sharing and Napster. Then 2015's the Deep Web is about Silk Road and Bitcoin and the dark web.
Yeah.
And
He went that route, huh? He sounds like he would be such a good guest.
he would be a great guest. I mean, like, I was watching all the documentaries on the Bill and Ted Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's really eloquent. He really seems to have like a great perspective on all this stuff. He's just interesting to listen to.
He's very politically vocal on Twitter, and he posts a lot about Jeffrey Epstein and like the elections and Donald Trump.
Yeah,
and
I am
Hillary Clinton.
even more interested now
Alex
than I
Winter,
was before.
A good Twitter follow, and also his Twitter account is one of the only places you can get like firsthand Keanu reports.
Yeah.
That is true because they are best buds. I love that they're best buds still after all this time.
It makes me happy.
Like they just go get dinner together and just hang out. Him and Solomon and the other writer Matheson from Bill and Ted, they just get dinner. I mean, have wine together.
That sounds so
Whatever.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
question
Lovely.
is,
Just hang out with your
hey guys,
boys.
can we be invited? Do you want to all?
Well, don't invite ourselves over for dinner, literally.
Got room for 3 more?
We'll have you over at Jake's for dinner.
Yes.
Come on over. We'll hang out. Or just any one of you, anyone who's in New York, please come on the show. If any of our listeners know these people, please
I'll talk
reach out to them.
fucking Ripple and Epstein with you.
Yeah. We'll get into it, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to talk about.
I want to ask Ed Solomon all about his thoughts on all the Men in Black sequels he did not write, which are very inferior to the one he did write.
Yeah. What's your take on the Area 51 raid that didn't happen?
I'm sure he has a lot of thoughts about that.
Sure.
Honestly,
I'm sure
Alex
he
Winter
does.
might.
Alex Winter, the more we talk about him, the more he sounds like he should be my friend.
He looks like a cartoon character.
He really does. I mean, he looks like a cartoon
without
character.
any prosthetics or makeup, like a Max Headroom character.
Right. They probably they gave him some like foundation or something in this movie, but and like maybe whitened his teeth, but like he really does have that weird angular face. Did he get like a little bit of a chin added or something? Like,
it's so hard to say because I knew he has a very uniquely shaped face. His face is fun to look at. There's a lot of interesting things going on there.
And take on Alex Winter. His face is fun to look at.
It's very fun to look at. There's something I like about the shape. I want to like squeeze his head or something. It's hard to put my finger on it. He's handsome, but there's also something.
I want to
about
like
him.
a blind person. I want to like feel his.
I want to feel his face like Braille.
Yeah,
maybe. Maybe. You guys feel me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, Pat, do you want to read the quick plot synopsis? Because this movie actually like it's not so much the plot as once again the insane ornamentation. Like hanging off of the backbone of the plot and just the visuals.
It's pretty funny then
and
because
the gags.
Like to just get to the point in the movie where like it's all a setup to bring the main characters to this freak show run by Randy Quaid where he mutates people.
Wonderful.
But the insane story gymnastics it does to get there is pretty wild.
I mean, it's some like Space Jam level.
It's so goofy.
Yeah.
Contortions.
Okay, so it begins with talk show host Sky Daly, played by Brooke Shields, and yes, there is a Blue Lagoon joke in there. Is interviewing beloved former child star Ricky Coogan, played by Alex Winter. An important note, because this sets up an incredible visual gag for the final scene. He is all shrouded in shadow. We just see him in silhouette, and his face looks horribly deformed with like pieces growing off of it.
Yeah.
Rather bluntly, Sky asks how Ricky so quickly went from one of America's sweethearts to a name that makes children scream in terror. Ricky, completely in silhouette, begins his story. Ricky is shown accepting an endorsement contract from slimy megacorporation EES, which stands for Everything Except Shoes. And I gotta say, this is like, they really predicted Amazon right there.
They did.
That is.
I mean, it's not hard to like, not to knock it, but to create like Omnicorp or any of these kind of ideas, it's not hard to be like a corporation that does everything finally.
Right.
But
it is very close to what Amazon actually is.
that is true. And who is the CEO? What is that actor?
Of course, the William Sadler, who was Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yes.
And what I love about
his
that
grin, his
He keeps
grin.
playing just pieces of shit.
But
He's another one of these character actors that just looks evil, plays evil people.
Yeah.
And his name is Dick Bryan.
Yeah.
which is a great name. But also, again, I Alex Winter seems like a really good guy because, it's like his two friends who were not famous. Once he got famous, he brought them along to make a TV show together. He became friends with William Sadler while making Bogus Journey, and he's like, hey, want to come along and be in my weird passion project? He and Keanu have been best friends for decades. I think it's great. That it just makes me happy to hear that. Oh yeah, William Sadler. I forgot. He's also the villain in Die Hard 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
he's in like a bunch of Frank Darabont movies, like The Shawshank Redemption. He's in so many things, but
Always evil. Always evil.
That face,
nope.
it's kinda tough.
He plays the president of the United States in Iron Man 3.
I think
that is a movie in which the vice president is evil.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But
a very, very Bush era analogy, if I ever heard
Yeah.
one.
That sounds pretty
He is
Bush
Alex
league.
Winter would like that metaphor.
And weirdly, him as the president in Iron Man 3, the only Marvel movie in which the president appears.
Oh.
Is that right?
That's the you never see the American president in all like 24 Marvel movies except for Iron Man 3.
It's not about. That's because it transcends the state, right? Isn't that the whole point?
And the current
Probably.
political
I think it's just one of those things
bureau,
where Shane
yeah.
Black, being like a very traditional kind of action movie guy, is just like, look, we're gonna have the president in there, and he's gonna get captured.
He's going to take a call on his big red phone,
Yeah.
and he's going to say, not in my country.
Where are the nukes?
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Get off my
anyway,
plane.
So Ricky is shown accepting an endorsement contract from slimy mega corporation EES to promote Zygrote 24, a toxic fertilizer in South America.
Yes.
So this is great. Although hesitant at first, the greedy, self-centered Coogan caves in after their sleazy CEO offers him $5 million. Ricky travels immediately to the South American town of Santa Flan with his buddy Ernie.
The saint of creamy desserts.
Santa Flan.
Which is a great joke. During their flight, the duo have a run-in with Ricky's 12-year-old #1 fan, Stewie Gluck. Stewie begs Rick not to promote Zygrote 24, only to accidentally fall out of the plane. Okay, can we just...
Already such a good gag.
Can we just jump
straight
ahead?
up just throw him out?
He literally gets sucked out of the plane, and then the
it's
stewardess...
such an incredible gag because he falls over. Okay, first of all, he's trying to... Alex Winter is trying to hide in the airplane bathroom.
Yeah.
And Stewie is trying to get in, and it's like his head is being slammed in the door. And then he steps back, and a stewardess slams into him with a cart, like walking by, and he gets knocked over. And then trying to pull himself up, he pulls onto like the
emergency hatch of the
release
plane
and gets sucked out of the plane, and then a man in a wheelchair gets sucked out after, and
they
then
don't address.
And then the flight attendant just casually walks over and closes the door. And then it gets better because then it cuts to just like a giant like field outside a farm down on the ground, and there's this massive haystack, and Stewie falls down right next to it.
This is... Okay. This is so fucking Looney Tunes. I love it.
Airplane as well. That's the other That's the other movie we have to give credit
Sure,
to.
we're drawing a lot from the Zucker brothers.
Yeah,
Which
as
is
well.
which is a movie with a sense of humor that is hard to find anywhere else in a lot of like earlier American comedies.
We've got
obviously
Mafia.
Monty Python. Obviously Monty Python is the. I almost knocked my beer over. Obviously Monty Python is like the OG progenitor of a lot of this like silly slapstick. But this is coming across this, the water, and the Zucker brothers with Airplane, with Top Secret, with
Starring Val Kilmer.
starring Val Kilmer.
Val.
What is the show that became the basis for The Naked Gun? Police Story?
Police. No,
that's
Police.
Jackie Chan.
No, it's not Police Academy.
Fuck.
That
show's so
Is it
funny.
the Police Files?
Police something, yeah.
God damn it.
But then also The Naked Gun. So like those types of movies, right? Where
I will have this in a second. This is driving me
And then
insane.
Mafia would be the legacy of that.
Police Squad.
Police Squad, thank you.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
everybody should check out.
Which
That
has the
movie's-
best intro of all television shows.
and ending.
Yeah.
But of course, I think the key distinction here is that this has like the absurdity of like Zucker Brothers movies and stuff or the Zucker Abrams stuff.
Yeah.
But the
Like
big
visual like gag.
right,
like-
but the big difference is this has a way more aggressive cartoony visual style.
It's more aggressive
like a
and
lot
cartoony.
more prosthetics.
There's a little bit more of an edge to it, I think.
There's more surrealism.
Yeah.
There's just like it brings in more like science fiction and horror fantasy elements.
Exactly.
This shit scares me
a lot
more than stuff.
There's
Like-
a lot more people with makeup on.
But
There's puppets in this movie.
yeah.
There's like almost like
So
also
good.
just like speaking of Monty Python, there's a lot of like just Terry Gilliam's directorial style.
Wide angle
Yeah,
lenses.
very Terry Gilliam.
Like,
That's
a
a
lot
good. That's a good source.
Like
of
the
inspiration
way
for this.
like in fact, yeah, so like Terry Gilliam always, because I would watch his stuff when I was young. Both would. We watched Time Bandits and things like that, and like they're disturbing in a way that like an out and out horror quote unquote film is not. Like there's just things that are unsettling and sit in your mind in this like
For a long
disturbing
time.
and especially when the image like style is so over the top.
but shot in live action, so there's like a reality to it. It
Right.
beds in your brain for
so
sure.
there's like the shit just sticks.
I mean, classic
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam type stuff, which is very present in this movie, is shooting close-ups on people with a wide-angle lens, which distorts their face,
Right.
but then lighting it from like underneath, with sort of like like old school like horror underlighting.
Yeah.
and the whole it just distorts everything and just gives it this unsettling vibe.
Yeah, everybody
Right.
has like an uncanny bent face that protrudes out and
It's
bulges.
like if Fear and Loathing acid
Yeah.
trip scene was like a whole movie.
Yeah.
But then this movie also just has like those, like we were saying, those lovely Zucker gags where it's just pure silliness based on like the expectations of how editing works. I mean, the airplane scene, like right after, whatever, the number one fan, the Alfred E. Newman kid, Stewie Gluck, gets sucked out of the plane. There's this great shot where it cuts to a wide angle shot of a plane about to land at Santa Fe with Alex Winter, his VO. And it's like, well, I'm glad we finally landed here in Santa Fe. This looks great. The plane just explodes like into smithereens.
Yeah. Such a good
and
gag.
then you're like, oh shit. But then it just immediately cuts from there to Alex Winter and his friends standing on the tarmac and looking at the plane. They're like, wow, I'm glad we weren't in that one.
It's just that, and then they're done.
And then they're done.
It's
It's
just
just
like
the
it
next
keeps moving
joke,
on.
yeah.
Like that's like the pace and quality of humor
Yeah.
that's going on.
It reminds me
Yeah.
of, okay, this is skipping really far ahead, but one
Yeah.
of my favorite subtle little gags I think is representative of like the type of humor in this movie
Sure.
is there's a part where there's sort of like a heist they have to pull at one point, like into a lab to steal something. And then they're pulling this heist, and like there's this giant machine that's like
I
making,
loved this joke. I already know what you're gonna
Yes.
say.
This joke is so good.
There's
I
two-
wrote this joke down.
There's two jokes, but they're both great. But there's this machine that's making so much noise, and then Alex Winter sees that there is just a volume knob on the machine. And he just turns it to off, and then Randy Quaid is just like in his home, like can't hear anything, and then Alex Winter bumps an empty styrofoam cup,
Yeah.
and it falls on the floor, and then Randy Quaid like bolts up and is like, sound like a styrofoam cup.
No, he doesn't even say sounds like. It just hits the ground, and then like he's watching his TV, and he turns around, he's like, styrofoam cup.
And then, of course,
And he goes and checks it out.
Yeah, and he's like,
but-
right.
And then the second gag that is so good is everyone is like trying to get out of the building before he arrives, but you know, he gets in, and you see the camera like zoom in on the doorknob turning very slowly. Cut to like Alex Winter trying to run away, back to the doorknob turning very slowly, like you've seen a million times in movies.
Yeah.
And it cuts to Randy Quaid on the outside being like, "Damn buttery popcorn, my hand keeps slipping."
He just can't turn the knob. It's unlocked. Fuck, dude.
And again, but it's perfect because
I
you
love
know,
this dumb
just like
humor.
the trope of someone very slowly turning a doorknob. We have made like movies where like Jake, I have directed you to turn the doorknob really, really slowly so I
Right.
can drag it out for like 10 minutes of screen time.
How no one has ever opened a door ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Unless
then
you have big buttery hands.
Yeah, exactly.
they got a perfect gag out of it. But anyway, that's skipping really far ahead because at this point,
They fly to Santa Flan to like,
Well,
you know,
can I one of the other
purportedly
gags-
advertise for Zygrote 24.
So at this point, this is where they're in South America, and they arrive upon a protest. You know, for what is it, Zygrote 24, and people
Yep.
protesting.
Wait, we forgot to mention
Ricky.
one gag that does pay off later on.
Tell us.
At the boardroom pitch in EES, just the board of directors.
oh
They
yeah.
are dead old men.
Are they dead or just like comatose, basically,
They're basically
or kind of
comatose, but they're-
zombified?
Their
It's
arms
unclear.
are all attached to wires, and they all get like for saying for voting on stuff. their
Basically, the
arms-
CEO is like, "We're going to make this decision. Is there a unanimous agreement in the room?" And then he pulls a
And
lever,
they're on
which
these
then
like
raises all of their arms up at the same time.
They're just basically
Yeah.
maybe dead, potentially just comatose old white-haired men
Yeah.
who are on a marionette rig.
Yep.
And their arms and hands can be manipulated by this one like weird thing that the CEO has. And that pays off again too, because they finally bring the board to, you know, Santa Flan, and like they're unloading them out of a truck.
Yeah, and they're
And
all
one
just
of them just like falls out of the back of the truck as they're trying to like crane them down into the ground.
Oh, it's so good.
It's very funny. And that's the kind of like slapstick almost joke that is also weirdly dark. You know, like,
yeah.
I mean, there may be corpses. It's not clear. Like, I don't know. It's just that kind of thing.
Whoa, guys! I'm looking up the guy who plays Ernie, Ricky's best friend.
Yeah.
Who's there with him? He's one of the robbers in the opening scene of The Dark Knight. One of like the Joker gang who gets
That's
killed.
so random.
That's so random.
Random. That's so random.
Random humor. What if a toad
What if a toad
had
like
a job?
Okay, that's too logical.
Well, that does remind me
You're fired.
of one of the freaks in the movie, Mr. Frog, who is just French and wearing a wetsuit. Which is a phenomenal
I
gag.
shouldn't be laughing so much. I mean, there's some stuff that really dates this. Like, Mr. T is the bearded lady. He's just a trans woman when you really break it down, and that's the joke. So, like, there are some things like that aren't great, but...
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Although I do have to say, when they give Mr. T's backstory, it is funny how swiftly like the transformation goes for him. In that, like, every one of the freaks that Alex Winter meets when he's finally imprisoned and half of his face is now this grotesque monster, they give their backstory really quickly. Mr. T obviously is the bearded woman is his name in the movie, and he's like, well, how did you get how you were? And he's like, well, I was just I went over and I was visiting this freak show like everybody else, and then Randy Quaid sort of was like, you know, it'd be better if you didn't have a dick. Yeah. And then Mr. T like puts his arms up like, what did you just say? And he's like, but you can keep the beard. And then he's like, oh, that's a great idea. And they like shake hands. I'm gonna knock my beer over. They shake hands, and it's just like as simple as that. It's almost like a transaction between
Well, it's
the two
almost
of
like
them.
that's the thing, is it's like making a joke of transitioning, but it is also weirdly like, and I feel great. I feel like myself.
Everything's good. Funny, weird fun fact about this movie too, with Mr. T in particular, was that he was sort of game to do this role at the time, but then quickly changed his mind somewhere during
Walked
production.
on the set and was like, what the fuck?
Was
Yeah,
it the same
and-
interview with Alex Winter that it comes up?
and basically just left production like
What?
halfway through shooting his scenes. Like,
How'd they get him on like in like the... How did they know enough to get him to be in for his closing scene and all that kind of shit?
I have no idea.
Just by sheer dint of how it was shot.
Matt, you do realize that movies are shot out of order.
Well, yeah, I know. Okay, but like it definitely wasn't one of those things where it's like, where'd he go? You know,
Like it is with Keanu.
yes, yeah.
But we'll get to that.
But at least they like wrote in a reason, because Keanu was clearly always going to be in as much of it, right?
Well, let's think about this. It came out in 93, so it's 92 probably when it's shooting. Was he probably locked down to some other movie? Was he doing Much Ado About Nothing around the same time?
I thought you were talking about Mr. T.
No, yeah.
Mr. T.
Mr. T and Much Ado About Nothing.
He pay the fool who chasing bitches
Who makes a
and
lot,
not studying.
who makes Much Ado About something. That was a stupid joke. So
Jake,
basically, Mr. T
It was a stupid
it was a
joke.
bad joke. Mr. T just left halfway through production because it's like you had a sense of humor and then quickly was like, you know what? I don't like that I'm dressing up in ladies' clothing. I'm done with this.
Well,
and he just stormed off. So.
In terms of what Keanu was doing at the same time, remember, Keanu had 4 movies come out in 93.
Yeah, he was working
So other than
hard.
Freaked, there was Much Ado About Nothing, Even Cowgirls Got the Blues, and Little Buddha.
Oh, I'm so excited for Little Buddha.
Can't wait.
I don't know why you guys are so excited.
Do you know what
I
that
don't-
movie is?
I don't really know what it is,
No.
but it's a Bertolucci film.
Matt, I'm going to show you a Google image of what Keanu looks like in that movie.
All right.
But we'll keep talking while I look it up.
So how they get to this point where Alex Winter has half his face fucked up, part of me was wondering, are the creature designs influenced at all by, remember that cartoon Rat Fink?
Vaguely. I'm going to Google it.
It just I also know there's that cover.
Oh, yeah.
That famous cover of Mad Magazine with that ugly woman where her eyes are popping out, and I'm wondering if it's the same illustrator, but like that kind of like punk rock, like Joey, like the Ramones, like the weird fucking I forget what it's called. Oh my god, I'm looking at Little Buddha.
This is Keanu Reeves' Little Buddha. It's going to be good.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's going to be a
That
fun
hair.
episode.
He's got that Tarzan, cartoon Tarzan noodle hair.
Is that our next episode?
Yes. Yes.
What? Little Buddha?
Wait. Oh, my God. I forgot to put Little Buddha on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to be talking about pretty soon. It's going to be good.
Wow.
Just Google, listeners, please Google image Keanu Reeves and Little Buddha if you have not
As
already.
Prince Siddhartha.
As Prince Siddhartha.
Oh,
It
he
is.
plays Little Buddha.
I'm very curious how this movie plays.
And it fits very comfortably in the sort of Little Bush,
yeah, it's like the cartoon
Little Bill
Bush.
canon of just little versions of figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our next episode.
Yep.
Man.
So there you go. Anyways, back to Freaked. Sorry. We will talk about Little Buddha later.
And definitely Little Bill. But
Well, debatable. Let's not get into Little Bill. The kids show tarnished by its creator's reputation. So tarnished forever.
Yes.
Both
of them are.
Yeah.
So, guys, what happens next?
So, all right. So let's jump back into the plot, right? We skipped ahead a little bit, but
This thing moves at a
obviously
blistering
it
pace and is
moves at an
mostly
insane
about
pace.
the jokes in the interstitial moments. So
right.
like,
but just let's get them to the freak show, linearly
Right.
now,
They
right? So they
land-
land in Santa Flan, and Winter sort of meets the love interest of the movie, who is an activist protesting the
Sort
use
of.
of Zygrot 24.
it's like barely like
and that
it's
is
like,
Megan Ward as Julie.
As in, she's like protesting him, and he disguises himself as an injured, totally bandaged man.
Basically, because he sees her from the tarmac and goes, "I'm horny. I want to have sex with this girl."
Yep.
And the best way to do it is to pretend to be the most pitiable person who got so injured, also protesting Zygrot 24.
classic I'm a feminist style.
Yeah, it's basically Dennis from that episode of It's Always Sunny when he seduces the woman that is like against deforestation.
Yeah.
Just pretends
It's
to be
like
a hippie
exactly that,
and
yeah.
just calculatedly just says all of the right things.
But for only a second.
Yeah, exactly. and then is just a huge piece of shit by the end and just is disinterested. But Alex Winter wraps himself up in bandages, and they end up all driving together down the road on their way to Winter's gig where he's going to promote the stuff, and then she talks some shit about Ricky Coogan, not knowing that that's who he is under all the bandages.
Right.
And then he rips his face off, rips his
She's like,
bandages
he's just
off.
some like. He's just some sort of like washed
Sellout
up shill that's
corporate
just,
shill, that sells these products that are literally hurting people.
And he's like, I think he's handsome.
Yeah, I think he's pretty hot.
I think he's actually cool. And then he rips off his mask eventually and shows that he is the yes,
Ricky Coogan. Yes,
but this is what's weird. This is what's so funny is like. They're going to the Zygrot 24
gig, where they're going to shoot the
factory, where they're going to shoot the
something.
commercial,
Yeah.
and in a twist that almost feels like it would have been planned by the villains of the movie, but it is instead sort of spurred on by the girl actually,
And just sheer coincidence.
the activist. She's like, oh look, like there's a freak show on the side. Like that sounds fun. Can we do that before we get to the factory?
Yeah,
and they're
it's a funny character trait for an activist to just
Sure.
be deeply into freak shows and like, oh yeah, let's go see like the geek bite a bird's head off today.
Well, what I like
Yeah.
also is that this movie has like kind of the bad guy is a big mega corporation that is like creating a toxic material, and they're trying to
in order to make the ultimate worker.
in order to create a mutant race, and they're doing eugenics, and there's a Nazi thing as well. But like the movie almost makes fun of and eschews a ton of like ethical, like there's no like moral stance. This movie like makes fun of the idea of also having a kind of ethical standard of any kind, where they're like trying to like at first they're like, oh, there's like maybe the inclusion of freaks and becoming horribly mutilated and deformed proves that we transcend, physical beauty, and then they're just like they're just like shut up, and they're
Yeah.
like smacking each other.
I think it's to the movie's benefit that it doesn't take a stance or end with any sort of like
It's a very
moralistic or
90s
saccharine viewpoint. Like it's so zany and so silly and so cartoonish that I think it would be to its detriment to commit to some sort of earnest and sweet ending.
And
by
also
the
to
time we
skip-
get to the end of this,
and even like to skip ahead to the final scene.
Yeah.
Everyone except for the worm guy gets turned back into a regular human.
Yeah.
Pretty
There's a
much.
worm guy.
Actually, except
yeah.
for no,
We
Stewie.
didn't say there was.
Well, we haven't gotten to all the freaks. Stewie stays like his.
unclear why, but yeah,
Well, because he didn't eat a macaroon.
He didn't like
but
macaroons.
The worm guy
Well, the
is
worm
like,
guy
just
didn't like
because I don't
macaroons.
like the taste of a macaroon.
Right, but
And
just-
guys, don't worry, it gets clear. The macaroons had a time-released antidote. Okay,
Yeah.
so
You
it's
get
gonna
it?
make sense.
But
You get it?
The point I was going to make was that, like, at the end, pretty much everyone has just become a regular human again. So it's not even like there's no theme of acceptance. Like,
Right.
look, like
The frogman just is wearing clothes.
Yeah.
and
Right.
is French.
So
That's
it's
good.
not like Ricky returns to like the public eye, but in a mutated form, everyone is like, you know what, we like you. And which like no matter how you look, which is funny because that's kind of set up earlier on when he uses his acting abilities to like win over the audience.
Yeah.
And right there, I really thought like, oh, that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna become like a great serious actor,
a
like.
mutant Shakespearean actor.
But that does not happen.
No.
Like it is a movie that basically satirizes sort of everything. Doesn't really have any like strong viewpoints.
Well, that's-
But
I was
that
It's a
about
doesn't-
deeply cynical
but it
movie
doesn't
on a
matter.
certain
Well,
level.
I was
It's
about
so
to say
goofy.
it struck me as a very early '90s movie. It struck me as a very Gen X movie. You know?
Oh yeah.
Not to put on like that, but the kind of like disaffected. I don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah,
but
it's
you'll-
all fucking stupid.
But also like you're still like living in the prosperity of like the early '90s or whatever. So it's like you're just kind of pissed and cynical about media never being tricked into like buying something because that's bullshit, man. That's not sincere.
You don't want to work. You don't want to like work under the slaveship of these multinational corporations that are just, shilling
Right.
out their products to the youth while poisoning other parts of the planet.
The kind of like the genesis of the extremely online kind of irony poisoning we
Yeah.
have now is like grown in that soil.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it just feels very like of its time in terms of that like very disaffected, everything's ludicrous kind of way.
So, guys, let's talk about Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid is the
linchpin of this whole film.
He is the biggest star at that time that is in the film.
Other than Keanu.
It's insane that he's related to Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
How such a handsome man.
Dennis Quaid, who just married a 26-year-old woman.
Well, all right, let's not get into Dennis Quaid's.
They're only engaged. Anything could happen.
There was just some funny joke where it's like Dennis Quaid, 39, in a hospital, pointing to a baby. That one.
Yeah, I mean, the age gap love is already just like a
pointing out
strange.
Age gap love is driving
check
you
it out
mad.
on Netflix. What a great
it's
show!
driving you crazy.
I saw them pointing out that she was 5 when The Parent Trap was released.
Oh my god,
It is
yeah,
hilarious.
Well, that
I
aside,
don't,
which is a little
all kidding a salad.
is a little creepy, but you know, I just meant that Dennis
Old
Quaid
guys
is
don't
good-looking.
do that.
I just
All
actually
meant
don't
was-
care.
I'm just
but
talking
it is.
about Dennis. I'm objectifying.
It is
Dennis Quaid for a
hilarious that
moment.
Dennis Quaid is in any way connected with Randy Quaid.
Exactly.
Like direct bloodline.
Yeah, they're brothers. And now one of them lives in Canada in
It's like
isolation and
exiled to
exile.
Canada.
Guys, remember how Randy Quaid is in Brokeback Mountain?
No. Who is he in Brokeback Mountain?
What?
He's the guy who hires
Is he Heath
them.
Ledger?
Oh, he's like the oil
At
guy.
the beginning of the movie, he's the guy who hires them both to like watch the mountain.
Yes, and then he like, and then he
Please
sees
watch the mountain.
He, like
And then he
Randy
sees
the- going on
Quaid is
up
the
here?
reason
What?
that they meet.
what
Yeah.
in the heck is
this
going
isn't smooch.
on
I didn't
up
pay
here?
y'all to smooch up here.
They all's
I
running
didn't-
around naked on my mountain.
I didn't pay y'all to not quit each other.
Yo, I hired you, and now you're doing gay shit on my mountain. And then he's in Canada.
Oh, yeah, now he's in Canada.
What did he do? Why is he exiled?
Because he knew too much about the shit that people are like, you know,
Epstein.
trolling about
No,
now.
for real though. Does anyone actually know why he's?
No, I have no idea.
Why he's nuts and
I
not,
think he invested in Bitcoin with like some loan sharks or something.
You think
and then
he's just, like, tax evading or
Yeah, I
something?
think he's tax evasion or something stupid,
You know what's wild?
and also like losing his mind, so nobody will hire him for movies.
I'll look it up.
Ang
I mean,
Lee did.
Back when he was still sane.
Don't you wish that Randy Quaid was in Gemini Man?
If
Don't you
Gary
wish that Randy
Busey-
Quaid was Gemini Man?
Yes,
Dude,
and then
that
young
would be
Randy Quaid has
fucking
to kill old
sick.
Randy Quaid.
Oh my God! It's like
Gary Busey. Gemini Man. His face is like a little bit less fucked up.
no, but it's like Buddy Holly.
acting.
It's like Buddy Holly Gary
Gemini
Busey versus
Man.
modern Gary Busey.
Yeah,
That would be
oh my
good.
God.
Randy Quaid would be good too.
Yeah.
Because he'd like even young Randy Quaid is like cousin Eddie from like the Vacation movies.
I love Randy Quaid is my problem. Like I
he's
always
great in
thought
a
he
lot
was
of old
so
movies.
good. Yeah.
and he's
Remember-
so good in Freak.
He is, but also like I'm looking at his
He's
filmography.
fantastic.
He gets it. He does.
I
He
forgot
gets it.
Randy Quaid's 1996 is insane.
What is
Do
he
tell.
Like, is he Nicolas Caging it? Is it like 8 movies in 1 year?
Well, no, it's just 2 very different, very significant movies in
Independence
the same year.
Day?
Independence Day and Kingpin.
Ah, good on him. Yeah.
Two great performances.
So
Great
he
movies both.
saves the world and then is an Amish bowler in like one of the breakout Farrelly Brothers movies.
I would say the
Holy
best
Trinity
Farrelly
of Farrelly
Brothers
Brothers movies. I'd say Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary, and Kingpin was just like a holy trinity for them.
I mean,
they
Dumb and
never ever
Dumber-
They never
that.
topped it.
They never
Dumb and
topped
Dumber
it.
is such a classic, but I would say that Kingpin is better than that movie.
I haven't seen any of these in like 15 years.
Dumb and Dumber. I can quote maybe the whole movie.
I know.
Yeah.
I've
So-
known you for a
and
long
it's-
time, Jake.
Well,
we own that on VHS.
We grew up in a household that did and still does very much appreciate the kind of humor that like Freaked brings,
Yeah.
and Dumb and Dumber, and Airplane, and Monty Python, like
and
we
Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
yes. Oh my God, how did we not mention?
We didn't talk about Odekirk and the O Show and how the
and
O Show.
This is so much
Yeah.
like that as well, and as any true fan would know, Jake and I
Yes.
are absolutely evangelical for Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
yeah, we're cuckoo for
I mean,
Odekirk.
like,
for Kung.
for Kung, cuckoo
for
for
Kung?
Kung.
Kungalingus.
Okay,
Ooh.
stop that. I assume anyone who listens to this podcast has watched our Kung Pao video.
Yeah.
If not, please refer to it as a source material.
I will say
Yeah.
a
Were we
lot more
ironically,
people have watched that
unironically?
video than people listen to an average episode of this podcast.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
as to be expected.
So you've seen it, right? You've all seen it.
So anyway,
yeah,
just
Kung
to
Pao's
make
good.
sure to give good old,
Odenkirk is due diligence, but
Hey
Steve is
guys,
due.
if you search Kung Pao, just Kung Pao on YouTube, our video is the 7th result from the very top.
Well,
Lucky number 11, baby.
Let's
Put it
crank
up
that
there.
up to 1.
72,000 views.
Hell yeah.
Let's get that numbers up. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
So like,
Subscribe to Skillshare or whatever.
anyway, all I'm trying to say
Actually,
is
yeah, that was the sponsor.
Please do.
yeah, we were raised on a healthy diet that definitely prepared us for just now to have seen Freaked. Like,
Yeah.
we just love the dumbest shit.
Dumb, slapstick, absurdist humor. Like, the cartoonier, the better. The sillier it is.
Right. The less linked to even like a joke, the
And
better.
this is why I think another good example of who kind of peddles in this and does it really well is David Wayne. Anytime he directs a movie,
Yeah.
who can just play with the fact that it's okay to break movies and the narrative coherence or like just the pacing of a movie for the sake of a silly gag.
You can
If
say
it's
that again.
Stupid. Yeah, thank you. Tell me about it. You got that whole section is just like, let's do this stupid joke from funny to unfunny to funny again, obviously, but like it has nothing to do with anything except being silly just for its own sake.
If you haven't
and I love
gotten-
movies that are willing to do that.
Because if you haven't gotten that sense from the detractors of us, there is nothing too stupid to say.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of ethos that we bring.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and so anyway, back to the
movie.
That's the plot
Yeah.
of Freaked. What
Sure.
basically happens is Randy Quaid captures the three characters.
Yeah, and
He's like, I got a really cool
and
freak
straps
to show
them
you.
down to like a Frankenstein monster table.
Yep, and rubs
and
Zygrot 24 on their
pours-
faces.
Exactly, and then he fuses.
And that's a big reveal, by the way, is that we don't know yet that he's in cahoots, which he is with the
Yeah.
CEO, but he is definitely getting a supply of Zygrot
24. He has a huge
Right,
tank
24
of it.
and
to
so
create freaks.
He fuses Ernie and Julie together
Yeah.
into like Siamese twin or like conjoined twins.
Like
So-
the two Stooges, because they just slap each other's heads.
They
just
really
poke
beat the
their
shit out of
eyes
each
That's
other.
really
Yeah.
just it. They're just constantly
They
hitting
hate each other.
It's
And-
very funny.
And then, of course, Alex Winter basically becomes like a really gross Two-Face.
Yeah.
Well, he only has enough Zygrot 24 left to do half of his body. He wants to do all of Alex Winter.
Right.
But he doesn't have enough Zygrot.
And so thus, like I said, he
Even though
becomes
he's got tanks full.
Two-Face.
Exactly.
Where just like split down the middle, like
Right.
one half is all messed up. And I will say, I both love this and it mildly frustrates me.
Tell me.
So, I think the design of mutated Alex Winter is so great.
It
Yeah,
really
Like,
is.
the makeup job is so good.
He's constantly
Yeah.
drooling, which is
Yeah.
Thanks for going that extra mile.
Yeah.
My one issue with it is because this is him for like 2/3 of the movie. Mm-hmm. And because of the makeup and the way that his mouth connects, like one half of his mouth is all prosthetics,
Yeah.
he can't speak normally. And so
Right.
all of his dialogue has to be ADR.
Yes.
Right.
And I think it hurts his performance. Just because he is just by nature of this thing that like makes his face unable to move, he's a stiffer. He's not able to give as much of like a live animated performance in the way Alex Winter is
Yeah.
really capable of because he can't really move his face and has to dub in all his lines afterwards.
And he was such an animated, almost like Jim Carrey, like rubbery
Right.
person at the beginning.
And the prosthetic makeup also won't allow him to fully close his mouth.
Exactly.
It stretches the one half of his mouth open so wide that he can never. I honestly think some of the drool is real.
I thought it was at first, and then
I think some of it is. I think they add drool and then he
and so
drools
again,
naturally
like,
also.
I love the design of it, but I
Yeah.
do think it hurts the character a bit, just because he is the main character, and it just like really limits his mobility.
Yeah.
and just his performance.
Sure. It does lead to one good sight gag where he gives Julie a big smooch towards the end of the movie, and then a huge trail of slime peels from like between their two faces.
Yeah.
Just because of how grotesque half his
Yeah.
head is.
viscous.
And
So,
of course,
so Randy Quaid basically is like, oh shit, I was gonna make you a full mutant. All right, well I'm gonna hold you in this cell where I keep all my other freaks until the time being. He drags Alex Winter in there. Great sight gag where this little outhouse is like this huge capacious warehouse
it's
barn
like a Doctor
thing.
Who phone booth.
Yeah, and then this is where we get to meet the freaks, which is great because the freaks are also some wonderful cameos.
Yeah.
I'll say Bobcat Goldthwait plays a man with a sock for a head, which you end up finding out is he's just actually a hand for a head with a sock over it.
Which is, I mean, Bobcat Goldthwait, especially this era, just having his voice in a movie, because he only appears actually
for a minute
himself in a really brief flashback.
Yeah.
And all the flashbacks are in like old-timey, like sepia-toned film reels.
But this is back when Bobcat Goldthwait was
did
still
the
stuck
voice.
doing the Police Academy
He was
voice, which
doing his
it's
stand-up
so
voice.
funny.
which he would end up, coming to hate and rue and
Yeah.
find plagued his existence. But here, he's still doing it, and it fits so perfectly with a big googly-eyed golf balled sock, and even the way he describes it, he's like, "I just came here to visit, and then they turned me into a sock."
That's good.
And
That's not
it.
bad.
And but
The nose. There's a guy who's
yes,
big
huge nose.
He
Nosy.
Nosy.
yeah.
He's just a big nose. There's the frog guy we said, who's just a French guy in a
scuba suit.
In a scuba suit. There's Ortiz, who is played by an uncredited Keanu Reeves. He is a dog boy.
Ortiz the dog boy.
He's based off of like a
Che
little bit Che
Guevara,
Guevara.
yeah, he's like some sort of South American
Guerrilla
revolutionary
revolutionary. Yeah.
Again, there is the
Yeah.
the kind of thing, this would probably get yelled at a little bit, like if this came out in 2019 and Keanu is playing a South American guy.
Oh, there's all
Sure.
kinds of shit going on in this movie.
Oh,
that's
sure.
like-
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this when we talk about Little Buddha too.
Exactly.
But
But
Oh, yeah.
I will say,
which I would say is worse.
without having seen it,
haven't seen it.
Without having seen it, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But Keanu is so good. He isn't in the movie as much as a lot of the other freaks, probably because he was very busy. So there's just scenes he's not in.
Yeah.
Not like he's not giving 110% though. Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but first of all, he's doing a bit of an accent.
Yep.
Yes.
But it's not stiffening his whole performance
It's not
like it does in
that bad.
Dracula.
Yeah.
No, it's actually pretty solid, and I think just because of the nature of the movie, where it's not like he's aiming for like total accuracy the way I feel like he was with other accents. He's still very loose and goofy, and it's more of like a Ted-esque performance.
Well, I think the cartoonish nature of the movie too gives him the license to feel more comfortable, just like go wild, as opposed to be English and cultured and be
Right.
Jonathan Harker and Bram Stoker's Dracula. You have to both have a great accent and actually act
can you
like in a restrained way.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
being next to like Anthony Hopkins and like Coppola's like
Yeah, exactly.
action?
Here
And
it's just like you're hanging with your friends.
You're hanging with your dumb friends. You're
And
in
you have a full
obviously
dog suit.
You're obviously in a idiotic film. Like there's a man dressed as a worm. Randy Quaid is in like a Carnival Barker outfit, rubbing slime on people's faces, and it's like, you're also fully head to toe, Chewbacca style, just covered in a dog
but
costume.
I think that's interesting.
So he probably got to like
does
lose
Keanu
himself.
have any other roles where he's this covered in makeup?
So far, no.
I don't think so. And I think, and again,
far?
also like his face, it's like it's not as expressive as it normally
Yeah.
would be, but he gives a very animated physical performance.
Yeah,
In
I
a
haven't
way-
seen
a
Something's Gotta Give yet,
There's a
so-
funny gag
True.
where like you fuck, that got me. I don't know why. Where like he's a dog boy, so when sometimes he needs to scratch himself.
Oh,
And a
that's so
fake
good.
leg just rises up out of the side of his body and just like scratches the bottom of his chin for a second.
Which, by the way, the fake leg coming up, I've seen it done
In
many
Kung Pao.
times. Kung Pao Enter the Fist is a
Yeah.
great one where the foot chases the guy. I've also seen it in You Don't Mess with the Zoltan or whatever.
Zohan.
Zoltan the Barbarian or whatever.
Zoltan.
Where
That's from something else.
Adam
Big.
Sandler
Yeah.
like kicks a bunch of people, but the fake leg just really does it for me. Anytime like somebody does like a shitty fake, obviously,
Yeah.
force split or something like that.
I'll
and
laugh
they
at that
use-
till I'm dead.
Basically,
Okay? You hearing
basically,
me?
I will.
Good
Yeah.
jokes. So from here,
Thanks, Pat.
really,
Pat the robot. These are funny.
the story. Actually, there's one very important character and casting that we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the cowboy.
The cow.
Yes.
Oh, he's a
yeah.
cow.
Yeah, cow. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a
Yeah, cow moo. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
an anthropomorphic cow.
Yeah, that's
dressed
right.
like a cowboy. But do you know who plays him?
No.
You guys haven't looked this up?
No.
John Hawkes.
That's John Hawkes?
That's John Hawkes.
That's Martha May Marlene or whatever?
Yes. Martha Marcy May Marlene.
That's you, me, and everyone we know? John Hawkes?
Yes. Winter's Bone.
That's that. What, oh, God.
Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound and Down. That's John Hawkes?
That is... Damn.
I didn't even know he was alive back then.
Yeah, I didn't know he was... Oh, that's... He dies in the opening scene of Miami Vice, John Hawkes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, John Hawkes really, his career did not pop
Place
until
Beyond the
like
Pines.
he was still just doing like bit parts until the early 2000s, and that's him.
Good for him.
This is the kind of film I would love to be in because
This is your dream movie.
my
Get
dream
covered in
would
shit
be covered
and
in
act weird.
slime and be weird and like not recognizable
Yeah. It's
and
so
not
fun.
even credited. I would, yeah, that would be amazing.
Well, can we talk about this now since we have gotten to him? The fact that Keanu isn't credited is interesting to me because I'm
Yes.
curious. He was obviously associated with Bill and Ted. It doesn't seem to me that it would be per se like a blemish on his acting career or something that management would have pushed and been like, yes, fine, you can do this, but like you're not putting your name on
I think it's a
this
weird
thing.
contractual thing.
And what do you mean by that? Like what within his contract is preventing him from being
Sort
credited?
of, maybe like a SAG thing, or maybe for instance, maybe he did it for free.
I was about to say, like, does he need overtime or something?
Like maybe he did it below his usual rate, and there was like a conflict with like the agents and the studio and stuff like
Okay.
that, and he was like, look, I'll just do it. Let's just don't credit me.
I'm so curious.
There are so many weird behind the scenes negotiation related reasons
for not having your name up on the
for credits or lack of credits.
My feeling is that it would have sold the movie much better had his name been put on there. I think that's probably obvious, and it was probably obvious to Alex Winter and everybody making the film. It's like if you have Keanu Reeves, I would have guessed that the trailer would be like almost all Dog Boy. And they're like, starring Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter.
You would
and
think
you'd
so.
be like, oh, this is a Keanu Reeves movie.
But like, for instance, I can't remember the exact reason, but in the movie Tommy Boy,
right.
Rob Lowe, who is basically the villain, not credited at all. And
So really?
and it was and it was because of like one of those weird reasons of like negotiations and like that just behind the scenes conflicts.
Interesting.
And usually involving like agents and the studio and producers and stuff like that, where usually the person's like, I want to do it, and I don't really care about that other stuff. Like I don't want that to hold it up.
I like being in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Who
people
was that
like...
impression of?
That's Nick Cage.
Oh, okay.
I like
yeah.
being in movies, Gary. Gary, I like
Schindler's Fist. Yeah. That's good.
So I like people like that, though, you know?
Me too.
People that love acting to the point where they're just so ubiquitous. I mean, Michael Caine is very open about that fact.
Yeah,
like,
he
just
doesn't
like,
care.
I just love acting, and I'm not going to try and do it.
Jaws 4 bought him a new house. He's like,
I bought a
everybody
pool.
thought that was a piece of shit.
And it was, but I bought a pool. But like, well, actually, Pat, do you know, like, all of this seems like it would be mostly financial. Like, I'm wondering, is SAG an entity that's strong enough where, like, if somebody wanted to negotiate, it seems weird to me that SAG seems like it would like give you more autonomy and it would give you stronger negotiating
I'm not the
power.
person to ask about this.
Tell us
Including
about
the-
SAG, Pat. Dick Willems' SAG hour.
It doesn't seem like out of your wheelhouse. I just didn't know.
Look,
if maybe you knew.
we have actual SAG members on this podcast. Don't ask me about this.
All right, we'll talk to them when they're on.
Anyway,
And,
so I like that.
Once again, their friendship is just endearing.
It is.
The fact that he just will jump in for this silly role, and you know,
But he's having fun too, which is like I would have
Yeah.
noticed. I think it took me a minute to even recognize that it was him.
yeah,
And then like I would have noticed if he was like doing this as a favor in a grudging way. But
Yo, he's having a great time.
he's having fun. The thing is, he's having fun,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of the thing about this movie in general is basically everyone's having. I guess Mr. T wasn't having fun.
There's a
but they
rule of
kept
thumb,
only the
though.
information. They kept only the scenes where he's not overtly suspicious of the film.
Okay,
there's a general film rule of thumb which I've heard before, which is like the more it seems the cast and crew are having fun, usually the less enjoyable it is for an audience member to watch the movie itself.
Okay.
Which I just don't think applies here. A lot of the times it does, though. If you see things that just feel like home movies, essentially, where people are all hanging out, and you're
Well,
like, this
like, you
seems like it
know,
was fun to them.
Grown Ups is
Yeah.
like an example of that. But, but that's
Exactly,
also
yeah.
just like people that
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
have stopped trying.
Yeah.
This movie is. There's no way to like criticize this movie for not attempting something very elaborate.
Grown Ups feels like a movie where 8 different people
hang out
need
in
to
the
pay.
woods
8
for-
different people need to pay their alimony payments. Is what that movie feels like. It's just different actors with divorces under their belt.
My wife's got the other house kind
Yeah.
of shit. Yeah.
But
Anyways.
so, I mean, there isn't a lot of story in this movie. It's
No.
basically the freaks try to escape.
Yeah.
And there's different things where, like, there's one really funny one, I think, where they all dress up as milkmen.
So
They
good.
steal, like the milkman is delivering milk, and they all steal, like, milkman uniforms. And Randy Quaid looks out the window and is like, wow, look at all those milkmen. I guess they're fighting because there's so many of them, and he can't recognize any of the freaks. But this leads to one of my favorite visual gags in the movie.
Yeah.
They have this giant, like, replica or like giant statue sort of thing of
Right.
Randy Quaid's head that rotates
kind of
around outside with
It's
these
his panopticon.
Yeah.
If you are familiar with Foucault.
Or if you're familiar with Tolkien, The Eye of Sauron.
But it's like that, and
The eyes,
when
the
they're
Rastafarian eyes
and they're
of
always trying to
Sauron.
stay away from the eyes. And there's a part when the head rotates around, and they see the eyes are missing.
Yeah.
And then you discover that the eyes are like these sentient creatures.
And they're Jamaican.
They're
They're Rastafarian, which is also one of those
It
elements
makes
that like
no sense.
has aged questionably.
They
but-
are
but
Rastafarian
They carry
eyeballs.
Uzis.
And they have
with arms and
machine-
legs. And but what I love about it is they even have like the optic nerve in the back.
Yes, that is cool. Like
It's
tails.
such a great detail, and it reminds me a lot of. Have you guys read the comic Sea Guy?
Yeah, I have read
the,
Sea Guy.
the Grant Morrison, Cameron Stewart comic.
Yeah,
love
me
it's
some
one of my
Grant
favorite comics
Morrison.
ever. And in that, like the villains in both volumes of it is like this giant corporation, kind of like Disney, just based around this mascot called Mickey Eye. And it's just like this, and the mascot is this giant eyeball with arms and legs, and it reminded, and once again, it felt like, oh, Mickey Eyes is just basically like these eyeballs.
There is also like
can I say there's in terms of this movie, probably not really influencing things, but things in it, things from this movie reappearing in much like bigger, more popular things.
Yeah.
I did wonder, did the Pixar movie Up steal the gag of a dog literally shouting "squirrel"?
Oh, yeah, Keanu
mid-conversation?
does the Up gag.
And that's how he gets to leave for a while.
and
Yeah.
like running away to chase a squirrel.
Yeah. Keanu
The-
makes his abrupt exit. You're right. Just going squirrel and running
a couple
away.
things. First thing, that milkman scene. Other best line of the film. There's
Keanu gets it, yeah.
Keanu gets it as Ortiz. There's a bunch of, they're all sneaking around. They're all dressed as milkmen. And then through happenstance, also, you know, Ricky has stolen a milkman costume. And Ortiz goes, man, look, 12 milkman is believable, but 13 is ridiculous.
And then they all fight. They all get into a
And
fist
they all
fight.
get into a fist fight. He's like, if someone would have bought 12 milkmen.
12
Anyway,
milkman is statistically possible, but 13 is just silly. Yeah.
so there's that line, which made me laugh.
It's a funny movie.
The eyeballs, first of all, my question was, you know the band The Residents?
No.
Nope.
They dress up as eyeballs.
Oh, that's
cool. In the way that Daft Punk does. But it was like something that I can almost guarantee you Alex Winters was aware of and like
Sure.
listened to. And I think one of the big points for why they were Jamaican was because they say everything is Irie.
Oh, it's a pun. Everything is
you're
Irie.
right. You're right.
Irie.
And they're running around and they're shooting their guns.
So yeah,
Wow.
but so from here, I mean, we should kind of skip through the story because
Yeah.
we don't want this to be an episode as long as the Dracula one.
No. He
please,
goes and
God.
he sneaks into their lab, tries to get the antidote, messes up, and then
Accidentally
Well,
takes the actual antidote.
I will say the
Yeah.
part where they're like sneaking through. Also, Randy Quaid's main henchman is this Toad Man who can like, who's like this big guy with a bunch of warts, but who can like shoot his tongue out super far to grab things.
Yeah.
Which eventually leads to him exploding.
yeah.
But the part where they're
dynamite.
yeah, the part where they're sneaking into the lab is really cool because they're tunneling underground and it's sort of
Yeah.
this big cross section view
Yep.
where you see like the
Fantastic Mr. Fox style.
yeah. Once again, Wes Anderson stole everything from Freaked.
He really did. And it's true.
and he took everything.
He's coarse and he's rude and he took everything.
And of course, this is where we have the gag that we talked about earlier with Randy Quaid opening the doorknob. And basically this all builds to a point where, because the freak show, they give these performances for an audience, and an audience that really does not seem like they're in South America at all.
Because it's a functioning freak show and they need to pay the bills.
So
they got to put on a show.
And so the EES people
tickets.
come in to meet with him to talk about like the sort of like super worker freaks he's going to build for them. And then there's also like a show happening for the audience. And then also, damn it, there's so many good gags in this movie.
Yeah.
The whole Stewie subplot where, the little kid, where he discover, because they establish that he and Ricky just have like this like psychic link and can speak to each other
as soulmates
and see where each other is.
It's so hard to get through. Like, typically the movies we've talked about just have like a very, like, a narrative that occurs, and you want to talk through it sequentially, and like, maybe we get off topic and that's why things run long. This one's more just like, oh yeah, and anyway, so there's like telepathy and like, but then he gets turned into like a shoe, and like we're just I want
to talk about this incredible gag.
Tell him.
Because so Stewie learns that Ricky has been turned into a freak and is being held prisoner in South America, and he's like, I'm going to tell the newspaper, and he walks into the Los Angeles Times, and then and you see this shot from the outside.
It's very John Wick Chapter 3, this gag.
Very John Wick Chapter 3, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where Keanu got the idea and then told the stuntmen. But he walks in, and you see from behind like the glass door to the Los Angeles Times, and he walks in and tells them about it, and then they just throw him through the glass door outside, and then it just cuts to like Time Magazine, the Washington Post, as every single place, they throw this child through a glass door.
They don't open it.
This kid's so abused the whole movie.
And then finally he goes to News of the World, like the sleazy like tabloid, and they're like, oh, that sounds great. Like of course we'll buy that story from you. Can we show you the way out? And he goes, oh, it's okay, I know the way, and throws himself through the glass door. It's incredible. But then of course this builds to like this whole climax where Stewie ends up showing up. He gets captured by EES. He gets mutated and turns into this giant like
Stewie Gluck.
Just like this freakish like mutant puppet version of himself.
Winter ends up getting transformed also into a large mutant version of himself, and they battle for a little bit, which is great.
And those designs are great too.
Yeah, the designs are fantastic.
They're too hunchbacked, weird.
And like they're giant suits that clearly people are in.
Yeah, but then the big cow guy, the cow freak who's in a cage, reminds
Cowboy.
Reminds Alex Winter's character that Stewie is indeed his soulmate, and that they should learn to like love each other. And so the two big giant freak mutants hug it out, and then both turn on to Randy Quaid, and Alex Winter just punches downward onto his head and collapses his full spine in a way where the sound effects were wonderful.
It's great.
And then throws him into the vat of toxic waste.
And then we return to like the talk show with Brooke Shields, and they finally fix the light on Ricky, and then reveal that he's turned back to normal. And there was this cactus behind him,
making
that made
his face
silhouette look all messed up. And then of course there's a good thing where they revealed that was it the villain just mutated into
Brooke Shields.
Into Brooke Shields.
And then it was her the whole time.
And then Julie shows up and just shoots her to death with a gun.
Well, they're like,
she gets shot down like I think twice,
3 times.
They're
so funny. Like,
she has a machete and tries to kill Ricky.
They're like, and the crazy thing was, we threw Randy Quaid into the vat, and he turned into someone who, I mean, looks just like you and has the same clothing, but then like these like fucked up legs, and then it just like abruptly also like shifts down, and her legs are like these purple. They're like insane looking, and no one was like addressing that either.
And it doesn't make any sense
And then
why
it
they
just
wouldn't have seen
immediately
it.
cuts to her. And she's like, ah! And she has a machete, and then they shoot her 80,000 times. And then just like,
and all the freaks have been turned into
Except
humans
the
again,
worm guy.
except the worm guy, because there were macaroons with the antidote that
And
they
he
all
didn't
ate
quite
earlier.
like macaroons.
like, just because I didn't like macaroons, like you could have just gave him another one.
This movie is insane. Okay, and we should mention to our listeners, like we'll have already posted this on like the Twitter and Instagram and all that, but the only real way to watch Freaked is in this like cropped 4:3 aspect ratio version on YouTube in 480p because it's not streaming anywhere. If you want to buy a DVD on Amazon, it costs $200.
There's Blu-rays you can get from like 2013.
Yeah, for like $50.
But at least it's not $200.
I mean, if you're talking about $200, it's a lot less.
It is, but it was so wild when I discovered that it was $200 for a DVD, and it's available on Prime.
It's a shame because like
this movie is due for a good
remaster kind of-
Yeah,
Blu-ray
this is one of
release.
those things that some
Come
company
on now.
like Shout Factory or Vinegar Syndrome or something like that should just like
Vinegar Syndrome. This is your shit, please.
It really is.
I hope that the Bill and Ted 3 movie gives Alex Winters at least, if not the ability to make IHOP the movie, then to get a proper
IHOP.
Blu-ray
That
release.
is the takeaway
from this.
Make IHOP.
We want to see IHOP. I think probably the rights are still okay. Oh God, here's what's so fucked up with this.
No, what?
This was produced by 20th Century Fox,
Yeah.
and so it's probably technically now owned by Disney.
Oh no!
No.
Disney owns Freaked.
Hey, is this going to be on Disney Plus? Disney Plus, put Freaked on there.
Yeah,
you
Chris,
cowards.
4K.
Disney
120 frames per
Disney
second.
Plus. You put everything you own.
Yeah.
I want to see Freaked. I want to see Song of the South. I want to see it all for streaming.
Bob
Yeah.
Iger, what's your excuse?
Iger.
Just Freaked and Song of the South. That's it.
Okay,
Those are my
guys,
only
we
two.
should wrap this episode up.
Yeah, Freaked ruled.
It's a good movie. It's like, thank God it's 80 minutes. I feel like if it were longer, it would just it might get exhausting.
I might get
It
some
is. It's like
fatigue,
a very it runs high octane. It's a dense with jokes per minute.
Yeah.
And it's a great feat of just insanity from a very specific period in time aesthetically.
Yeah.
And
this could only be made in like 93.
Yep.
Yes. Think all of the references we made earlier, and I'm just going to add it's a brighter, more garish version in terms of look of like the live action Mario movie, which will forever be a proponent of. And if you liked laughing at that, this movie will probably delight you. Also, a little bit of early Peter Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some
That's a
of the
good call.
makeup
Some
people
of
in
the
this
bad
movie,
taste and shit. Yeah.
Some of the
Yeah.
makeup people in this would go on to work with Peter Jackson on like The Frighteners and Lord of the Rings.
There you
Makes
go.
sense.
See, look.
Yeah.
Meet the Feebles, especially.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
This is like
And also, if
same
you
movie.
enjoy this, then you should seek out movies like Body Melt and Street Trash. and the
Please,
stuff.
yeah, go to the real. I mean,
Society,
those movies
check
are
it out.
superior.
yeah.
I would say in terms of garbage.
In some ways.
In some ways, this has a tonality that none of them match. I'd say that this just works hand in hand with
Because
all
it's
the
more of
rest
an
of them.
upbeat comedy. Street
Yeah.
Trash is a dark film.
And
Street Trash is the one I haven't seen.
it's like it took like 10 years to make. That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
The takeaway is watch Street Trash and hashtag make IHOP.
Hashtag make IHOP. And so on that note, I would like to thank Brian Host for our theme song. Thank you to Emma Logsdon for our artwork. You should follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Keanu Podcast. Send us emails, KeanuPodcast@gmail.com. You can talk about these episodes with other fans in our subreddit, r/Thrillums. Leave us a nice review on Amazon. Not on Amazon. We're not there. On iTunes. We really appreciate those.
We wish.
They make us feel good. Jake, you want to plug anything?
Yeah, follow me on Vero at @TheRealJT, and also there's a great Instagram account about fun facts of historical New York City landmarks called Landmarks of New York. Follow that too. My friend runs it. It's cool.
Oh, okay.
if you want fun facts of like the Chrysler Building,
But mostly
and
follow
the Empire
Jake
State
on Vero.
Building.
But yeah.
Jake, how's Vero going?
Poorly. Thanks for asking.
Well, on that note, be excellent to each other.
Good night, y'all.